Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rock Show with Connor Farrell. Today, our guest for fans of Dayglow and Sunroom is AlexMillerJamz. Cue intro. Okay, now that we're back from the intro, guys, we're back from the intro. We're going to do a couple of rapid-fire questions before delving deeper with Mr. Miller-Jamz here. So, to start, Alex, what's one of the first artists you remember getting into when you really were like, I like music. I like that guy or that band?
That is a phenomenal question. I think the first artist that I really realized I really liked is Pink Floyd. My mom used to actually lock me in the car. Well, okay, that sounds bad, but she wouldn't let me out of the car if a good song was on, and usually it was a good classic rock song. So I remember it being Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, and at first I was like, all right, this is okay. But then once I started like actually developing my own taste, I was like, dang, this is some good stuff. So that was like the first time I listened to like an entire artist discography, and then I like fell in love with just like listening to albums all the way through, because it's so different than just listening to anything on repeat. So yeah, I would say definitely Pink Floyd.
Sweet. Okay, well, that's a good answer. We can come back to Pink Floyd.
Wonderful.
Now, second rapid fire question. What's a new artist or an artist that's new to you that you're just getting into? It could be, AC/DC, or it could be someone who came out yesterday, but that you're new.
Yeah. I
They're
think
new for you.
new for me.
Sorry.
I think this isn't extremely new for me. But indie band Peach Pit, they, I don't know, it's interesting because they use guitar so well in their music, where it's not completely focused. It's definitely, indie, sometimes leaning towards the indie pop sort of area, but definitely with some elements of like the indie rock. And their guitarist is just absolutely insane. He's a lot of like Travis picking stuff, and a lot of like almost like country and sort of blues or even bluegrass like undertones to it. But yeah, that and just their songwriting is it's just really interesting. They have a lot of really just good catchy stuff, and I've seen them live, and they're amazing live. They have really good energy. So yeah, I definitely got to go with Peach Pit.
Okay, now for the listeners out there who are unfamiliar with Peach Pit, what's a song you would recommend them starting with?
Phenomenal. So as I do I feel like with a lot of artists, the older stuff is better. But they actually have a song called Peach Pit. It was a song they wrote back when they were like teenagers. It's on I believe it's off their first EP. And Peach Pit by Peach Pit is it's an soft indie anthem, and it's really nice. It was a song that got me into them. I was like, oh, it's a song by Peach Pit called Peach Pit. What's up with this?
Is
And
it on an album called Peach Pit?
on I probably I can't remember exactly, but actually it might not be the album, which is funny too.
Ooh, that's weird. That's always confusing.
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever seen a band where they've got a song and but it's also the title of an album, but not the one it's on?
I don't know if I've seen that.
I think I've seen that once or twice, and you're like,
No.
oh, guys,
that would trip me up so
it's
bad.
so confusing.
It's the title track of the wrong album.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay,
That's
so now time to burn bridges. Who's better, Peach Pit or Pink Floyd? You have to. You literally. They say we've got women and children trapped. You need to flip the. It's the trolley problem. You need to. The train tracks are going to run over one set of discographies. Maybe not the musicians, but the discographies. So which one? If you only could listen to one.
Prefer that. If I could, I think Pink Floyd is obviously timeless, so I would have to choose them. Obviously, I love Peach Pit, and I love and I love their new sound. But like, I think Pink Floyd is like, I don't know. incredible musicians who have inspired me in a lot of different ways. So gotta go with them. Sorry,
You're
Peach
going
Pit.
with
I love you
Floyd.
guys, but yeah.
Okay, so what's one of the give us, if you will, some of the ways that you found Pink Floyd has inspired your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So biggest thing is in my guitar playing. So I started playing guitar long before I started writing songs. And my I used to take lessons with my friend, with this one guy, and he, back before we probably should have tried to learn it. He taught us Comfortably Numb, the both solos, the whole song, the whole shebang. And he not only taught us, just, he taught us how to play the solo, but he showed us a lot of the theory behind it and how it is all, almost all, the minor pentatonic scale with just a lot of really good bends. And that, I think, that made guitar improvisation using scales kind of click for me, because sometimes I think when young guitar players learn how to improvise, they're just playing random notes on the minor pentatonic scale. That's just what we do. I'm sure you can attest to that. But there's not really much behind that. You're just playing notes just to play notes. But that taught me that those same notes can become one of the greatest solos of all time and one of the most influential songs and solos of all time. So that's definitely the biggest thing that's inspired me just in guitar playing. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're not just picking random notes, what are you doing? You need to teach me. What are you doing?
What are you doing? I mean, really, it is picking random notes. But there's a strategy to the randomness, that
What
you're
might that be?
that you're choosing, whatever that may be. I don't think anyone can truly understand it, but I think it has to do a lot with, um, everything else that's going on, whether it be trying to match the bass line or just trying to add the chord tones to the
Mm.
extensions to your solos, just to kind of make your solo more connected to what's going on around it. I think the other biggest thing is not thinking about the guitar as a guitar, but more so thinking about it as an extension of your voice. So you can think of, you can think of a melody without being bound to or being confined by the notes in a scale, right? Because that's just how your brain works. Your brain doesn't necessarily know the scales, just like you're visualizing on a guitar. So your brain will come up naturally with the best melody that you can. So, um, so I think trying to, you know, see the guitar as an extension of your voice rather than like a separate instrument is something that is so hard and so annoying, but I think that's really the key to, like, good improv, and that's something that I think David Gilmour is pretty proficient in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that idea of, some people say the guitar, the reason they would say it was such a dominant instrument in what was really popular music, almost like the 60s until maybe the 2000s, you know, is because you could bend
Yeah.
and that mimicked the human voice, right? And so
Totally.
that idea, I think of, yeah, framing when I go do something or have melodies in a guitar solo, how would I use my voice? How would I sing over this part? How would I hum a melody or la da 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 da
Hmm.
da 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 da. I don't know, but something. The whole point to go
Exactly.
say is, yeah, I find a similar thing. I don't know. Two names that come off the top of my head might be like Brian May from Queen. There's a popular one, but I think you could kind of think. It seems to me that's probably what would end up. I would get more in that area, right? I would be thinking. I guess yeah. They say phrasing, right?
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
have and you breathe, and then you say another thing, and then you
Hmm.
breathe, and it might not necessarily follow just going up and down the scale like you might if you were just playing on guitar, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And another one is, do you know Masayoshi Takanaka?
I know the name for sure.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I guess the genre was called like city pop. That kind
Okay.
of, and so a lot of like kind of like 80s like funk jazz fusion stuff. But he's got his own records and he rips, but he's a very like deliberate, almost all of it is like no singing. It's just him playing, but
Yeah.
he's so vocal on the guitar that
Hmm.
it can fill in that blank. So David Gilmour, okay, now what are your goals with songwriting and how does right do you where do you start with when you think of approaching a song?
Yeah, definitely. I think my biggest goal with songwriting is figuring out how to express myself in a way that's entertaining to myself. I think most of the time I'm, in my room late at night and just like, trying to come up with something. And and sort of my goal in the in the short term as I'm writing is to sort of achieve that flow state when you get into when you're when you're playing a good solo or when when you're writing good lyrics. Um, and like because when you get in that it's just unstoppable. You're just creating and recording stuff, and it doesn't really matter how good it sounds. It just matters that you're having fun creating. So that's sort of like the the short term, the as it is goal. And as far as like when I sit down to write, I I try to I try to keep it as simple as possible at first, because I definitely need to limit myself, because a lot of the times when I come up with something, it leads me to something else. And then that leads me to something else. And then I have like all these things that I'm doing, and I get like major ADHD, and I'm just like jumping around the place, doing a little of this, a little bit of that, without really like finishing anything. So I think, yeah, so I've been trying to get better at just like limiting myself. And, for example, chord progression. So simple, but make a chord progression, figure out the right voicings first, record that, get that on the track, and then once that is finished, move on to say the lead part. How can I make the lead part complement the rhythm? And then building it up, and each part has to has to complement everything that came before it, or what's the point to it, So starting at this kind of like the bare bones structure, and then just working your way up until it sounds like a full song. That's kind of like the the best thing you can do to at least to start. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's your short-term goal. Hmm. So it's getting the flow state, and then that's your approach to kind of like
Yeah.
weed through it, right? Is how you kind of like wade through the water, not get too extravagant at first, because it's always easy to make things more complicated
Yeah.
later if you want to. You just get really nitty gritty with the guitar. So you know what I mean? Like you can add complexity pretty easy, right? And so that's something I think that you might be kind of in agreement with me on, right?
Yeah, and like because it's so easy, it's also just so easy to do too much unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And there's kind of you need to find the balance between, because sometimes doing too much is just really fun. It's just fun to like throw in a bunch of stuff, even though it doesn't really help the song. It's enjoyable, you know. So it's always about striking that balance between just having fun, creating something, and making something that you're proud of as the final product, as something that you're happy sharing. That isn't just a bunch of mumbo jumbo with a bunch of guitar noise, even though it's fun, Um,
Mumbo jumbo, a bunch of mumbo jumbo with guitar noise. I need that on a cup. Alex, okay. I love monikers. I love catchphrases. I love all this.
get that on
A
a mug.
bunch of mumbo. Can you say that one more time?
A bunch of
Mum
mumbo jumbo with some guitar noise or something like that, or a
with a
bunch of
bunch of
guitar
mumbo
noise,
jumbo
something like
with
that.
some guitar noise. That is the most apt way I've ever heard that put.
That is that
Because
is great to hear. Thank you.
because that's the peril. That's the trap. You can fall into the endless vacuum of mumbo jumbo with guitar noise. Or wait, see, am I off camera this whole time? I have a second camera right here. Hi, second camera. Anyways,
Wow.
no,
Switch
I
up.
gotta like put myself, I guess, in the middle, or else it like cuts you, or else I have to spend like an exceedingly long amount of time re-editing the video.
Yeah.
Compared to if I just use, because this we're using a software called Riverside.fm. Riverside, you
Shout out.
should sponsor the show. You probably will eventually. Actually, I'll probably reach out to you. That's a good idea. Wait a minute. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, that was that was all you.
I
But
was gonna
you're
say, so
welcome.
a bunch of mumbo jumbo with guitar noise. That's because I entered into the mumbo jumbo land, and it's guitar noise. Really, at a certain point, if you lose the plot of what you're doing, you're like,
Yeah.
well, I have 13 guitars in the song, so it should be good. It's like
Yeah.
I
And
just
it's
kept adding movements.
yeah, exactly. Not everything needs an extra harmony. Um
Yeah.
yeah, and there was so also I work at the School of Rock. I teach guitar there. So I've gotten a lot more into like the, understanding guitar, because you need to really understand it more so to teach it than you are to actually like play it. But anyways, one of my students was asking about songwriting, and we were talking about it, and he showed me something he recorded, and it was awesome. It was his first thing he ever recorded, and I was like, dude, this is sick. I'm like, so happy for you, and let's keep going. But we were having the same conversation about how it's so easy to do too much because it's fun, and when you get in that flow state, you don't realize you only think about what you're enjoying doing, and you want to do more of it. So and we basically came to the conclusion that a song is ready to be released, ready to be, produced, ready, sent to be mixed or whatever, when you can no longer take anything else out. So when it's sort of stripped down to everything that's necessary. And so what I've been doing is I've been like, or what I plan on doing rather is just, when I have a full recording, I can add whatever I want to add, and I can have fun doing that. But then listening to the song, listening to the whole song, and with one of the tracks muted, does it make a difference? Do I really miss this? Um, and I think that's a big thing with, with not doing too much and figuring out a way to be proud of your final product, is making sure it is not too much, and not too much unnecessary mumbo jumbo with guitar noise. But anyways, yeah, I wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, well, the reason I like that phrase so much is it's guitar noise at a certain point, right? Like you're saying, it's not signal. People talk, like how much is signal versus noise? How much is actually like the message, the song, the impactful part, and how much is just extra information auditorily? It's like it's for me. I like the campfire test, as I would call it. If it works with an acoustic guitar at a campfire, it works.
Brilliant.
And that's not to say that there aren't great songs that work that don't pass that test. Maybe you need a bass acoustic and an acoustic guitar at the campfire and two people singing to make it work. But I think
Can you
that
make it work?
it is like you're saying, it's not the only test, but these are pretty good tests, right? Because if it
Yeah.
passes where you're like, if I can mute the track and I still sounds really good, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, well then this might be an optional track that doesn't need to be here, but if I want it to, then it comes to taste and how I want to like package it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and there's oh shit, sorry, one second. And there's so much, like, yeah, I mean, taste and feel are a whole thing. Because there's so many different ways to write the same song. And especially now that, there are obviously so many different genres. Even within rock, there are hundreds of subgenres, and it's and a lot and they all have a different feel, and they all have sort of different taste. So even though you can write the same song you can make it punk or you can make it ska, and it's the same song at the campfire, but when it's released and when you're playing it, you're playing it live at the show, it's completely different. So I think, um yeah, like understanding kind of what having the vision is so important, um to like creating the final product that fits what you want, what you want it to fit. um yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but there's something.
Yeah, no, well, I think I might be able to kind of get you back on track. I think because this is the same things I think about is there's I guess this campfire test, right? Is like the blueprint, but then
Hmm.
it's what kind of so it's all just lines on a blue paper. It's white lines on a piece of blue paper, and so it has the instructions for where you can put everything to make this thing work,
Hmm.
but it's when you put it into reality, when you take it from 1D almost, right, like one-dimensional representation, two-dimensional, but like now you add physical space and you add color and you add all of these things, right? How does it look? Like someone I had on recently is a brilliant claymator, and I didn't just love his work. Well, I did love his work, but it wasn't just what he was doing. It was the fact that he chose to do these bright colors, and so he juxtaposed zombies, but they're bright and like they're like neon blue, and when you see it in physical, instead of like if you see something like if it was animated and it's all neon, that can be really overwhelming. But the contrast of a physical, confined, very fixed kind of thing in front of you, but it's so bright and almost like it doesn't even like it kind of I think it breaks your expectation of where you expect to see things, and it plays with that in a way that actually opens you up to it invites your imagination to join in
Hmm.
with the art. And so I sometimes think about the idea of like writing lyrics and stuff, and it's good to be literal and it can be useful. Like I love the first Arctic Monkeys record, and it's a lot of like very literal, like these are the exact Reeboks I'm wearing, and like a reference to the exact like thing.
Yeah.
um but then also I really think another thing, I think kind of more the standard, I think that's an exception to the rule. Like I think more the rule in or that my hypothesis is writing things with white space and leaving gaps open and being a little more poetic and romantic in how you describe things. It invites the viewer's imagination or the
Hmm.
listener to come join you, and now they feel like an active participant in the art.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, how do you think about like that?
Yeah, well, that's interesting because like you mentioned doing that when you're writing lyrics, and totally you need it's always important to have the good mix between the literal that's just easy to listen to, and then the sort of the figurative, the more
Yeah,
having more imagery and whatnot. That is, like you said, it invites the listener in and almost lets the listener take the lyrics for however they want to take it, because and it's more up to interpretation, and then that way, especially with something deep and something meaningful that
yeah,
that they can take, take however they want, interpret however they want. So, but what's interesting is that I think that also applies musically, like the concept of leaving the white space and letting them fill in the blanks is it can also be done, very tastefully through the music. And that kind of brings me back to like not doing too much, because when you leave literal spaces in the music, it lets the listener almost like reflect on what they just heard before moving on to the next thing, versus say if you added a crazy guitar fill, then that's like a new thing that they're listening to, and it makes them forget or almost forget what happened before. So I think the trickiest thing is having the lyrics and the music convey the same thing, and boost each other up, which I think that's something that is really hard. I think because they just need to really agree. And when you sort of leave space lyrically, you can also leave space musically. And those moments of reflection with the lyrics can, when you add, or rather when you take away some of the musical elements, they it just makes it easier for the listener to kind of focus on one thing at a time, because I think the songwriter and the artists and the performers are they we have the ability to kind of choose what our listener is listening to. We could put in a cool drum fill before a verse to say, hey, check out the drums here. Or same thing with for example, adding a lead guitar part in the second verse. It's not exactly the same as the first verse, other than the lyrics, obviously. But that could be just like, hey, listen to the guitar, we have something new. So I think understanding that you can kind of, as the songwriter, can choose how the listener is going to be listening. I think that's an important thing to understand. Even though obviously it doesn't work perfectly, the listener is going to listen to what they want, but you can kind of guide them, especially when they're not really actively listening. When they're just like driving to the store or whatever, and the song is on, they're not necessarily thinking about the song too much. So I think those are the places where honestly most of music is consumed, is not actively. It's it's in the background of things, so it's not being focused on too much. So so there's definitely the ability of getting that feel and getting that taste through choosing sort of what the listener is, what elements of the song the listener is, should be focused on, even if they're not trying to focus on that.
Yeah, something I wrote down was soundtrack to fun.
Ooh, yeah.
That's how I would define. I think I'm just throwing it out. It's an idea, but I think rock music, whether it's high energy or lower tempo, I think the general thing is like whether it's like it's like
Hmm.
like whether it's that or whether it's like more like let's say like KG Elephant's third album or like their fourth, where it's
Yeah.
like come a little closer than it's fun like, and I guess maybe like a little bit like kind of like some funk can kind of be that, but it's like it's the background, or I guess that's what it is. Whether it's like rock, in high or low energy versions, and with that, anything that's got like a grooviness to it, right? I think those. So whether that's like dance music or funk music or
Hmm.
rock that kind of mixes all of that together, I think that bucket of like music is defined by being like the soundtrack to fun. And so, but I think the reason that could be useful is if you kind of like, you kind of mark that in your head, you could kind of play around with, if I get them to focus on the thing that's more fun when they're not paying attention versus another thing, and what makes it more fun for them? Where do I want to shift their attention throughout the song to kind of play into that idea? So I guess, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. Soundtrack to fun. Yeah, I mean that's what music as a whole is. Like, jazz is the soundtrack to fun when you are, at a jazz club. And
Yeah.
what's interesting about that is that it's obviously improvisation based. So it's not only just
Yes.
the soundtrack to fun, but the act of playing it is fun. Um but that also sort of leads me to, or helps me think about, sort of the soundtrack to fun today, because a lot of
Uh-huh.
it is sort of shifting towards more electronic, a lot more DJs, a lot more house music, for example, and a lot just more electronic stuff, less acoustically, less people actually playing live instruments,
Yeah.
which I will I'll be honest. I will always prefer live instruments because I am a guitar player. I like watching someone play guitar, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. That I think it's interesting, especially with like modern dance music. It is heavily focused on the right, because that's what you feel. That's what when it's super loud, and when you're not necessarily trying to sing along, when you're just trying to dance, all you need is a and like you said, like all you need is a groove, right? So, and the rest of it isn't super important. It's sort of like the the frosting to it, where you got the um, you got the core of it, which is just the beat, and then you add a funky bass line that makes you groove a little bit more. Then you add, for example, a funky guitar that makes you groove a little more. Then you add a cool vocal melody that's some more sort of ear candy to listen to. But what's making you dance? What's making you have a good time? It's not the guitar. It's not the vocals. It's not the bass. It's the drums. It's the thing that you feel. And especially, I've noticed more that when music is loud, you literally feel it, right? Especially when I've noticed live when like the bass is super loud, and those really like low frequencies, just you literally feel it. And especially with like when the bass and the kick are locked in, then you just feel like the and you're not just hearing it, but you literally feel it inside of you. So it's interesting because there's a lot of factors that go into the soundtrack of fun. But I think going down to the core of it is um what's the setting? Is the setting a club where they're trying to get you to dance? Well, then you need some thumping drum and bass, uh to get that. But going back to like the jazz club, I don't think people are really getting crunk at the jazz club, and twerking or anything. So obviously that's not as
You're not
important.
at my jazz club.
Okay, you're right. You're right. We need to go to the Connor O'Farrell Jazz Club. That's a little different. But yeah. So that's the setting where sort of the lead lines, the vocalists, the soloists kind of shine more. So it's always interesting how the music that is in a setting changes the setting itself. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So soundtrack to fun. So there's that element of what there's this idea that music kind of as a mood altering drug, which I think is one aspect. But I think the other aspect is the story, is the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are two indispensable things. Like I think that's why people, as a mood altering drug, can AI music and AI artists like compete? Yeah. But when it comes to story and personality, no, not at all. And I think that's where imagination, because I think that's inherently how humans operate, is on story. The way we learn things is from teachers who are able to use a story, right? What that's in school, but you know, we watch a movie. That's how we learn a lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we learn a theme. And if a movie just has colors and lights and things, that's kind of like the mood altering drug. It's like the loudness, yeah, that'll work a little bit, but like if you want to captivate and move people, you want to inspire emotion and fandom, you need story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think music is two things. It's the mood altering drug and the story. And so it's the story of what choices are they making? What are they choosing to have me focus on right now, right? Who is the person behind it? Because
Yeah.
I find that's what people go to so much is like that's what gets people to listen to music oftentimes, even if it's like lower quality recordings or not the most sophisticated songwriting. It's not the most effective mood altering drug, let's say, right? Sometimes some bands and early records, but the story is so good. that you want to. Like for me, I know like I wasn't super big on like country and stuff, but there's a band Molly Hatchet,
Yeah.
and all of their record covers look like metal, like fantasy, like giant Vikings with swords, and it's so cool. I was like, I gotta listen to
That's
this, and then
cool.
it's like country blues rock, and I'm like, I gotta convince myself to like it. I've got to find what I like about this and
Yeah.
like really inoculate myself and get into it because I was sold on that, but it's the story. It's the non, you know what I mean? It's yeah.
Yeah, it's that that's interesting because it's so much more than it's a lot of what shapes music is perception of it. Like, an artist that you like can release the worst song ever, but you might still like it because it's the artist, you know? So yeah, that's interesting that with Molly Hatchet. But that that's interesting because I don't know. You mentioned like you need to like find a way to like it. You need to convince yourself to like it. Um, that's that's so fair. A lot of it is like, oh, I know that I've realized that just by listening to music, a lot of the times I won't like a song the first time, but if I force myself to listen to it 3 or 4 times, once it helps me understand it, and it sort of brings me into the story more, even if I don't. Okay, let me go back. So first time you're listening to a song, you're not getting the full story. Um, you're just sort of, especially if you're only passively listening to it, you're getting a catchy chorus, or you're getting a cool bass line. You're getting like an upbeat fun song, but that's it. You're not getting what the artist is really trying to convey. Not after the first listen, but the more you listen to it, the more that sort of surface level, catchy melody, cool bass line, whatever, that sort of fades and becomes normal. You're used to it by then, and that gives you sort of the mental capacity to be able to listen to the lyrics, and listen to whatever, listen to the harmonies, and listening to how the drums change in the chorus, which open it up. So there's so many nuances to a song that you'll only notice after a couple times listening to it. So I've noticed that there are a lot of amazing songs, like some of the favorite songs of all time. I remember listening to for the first time and being like, all right, it's cool, it's good. But I still add it to my playlist because I was like, it's got potential, whatever. Add it to the playlist, listen to it again. Okay, a little better. Listening to it again, and then you just realize that it's just so much better. So as a songwriter, applying that is hard because you need the balance between the ear candy, the catchy chorus and whatnot, and the sort of deeper stuff that keeps people going. It's like getting a listener versus getting a fan. You're getting the
Yeah.
listeners from the you know from the superficial, from the more service level stuff. I shouldn't say superficial because it's still important, obviously. But you get super fans by connecting with them through the stories that you're trying to tell. So it's always an interesting balance that I've noticed, just both from creating music and honestly more so just from listening to music.
Yeah. Well, we're
Yeah.
getting close to the end here.
Oh, are we? Oh,
Oh,
dang! What the?
I was gonna say, so this is something I'm really interested. What would you say is like your overall goal with music, or what's your North Star? Because I'll give you little me. Right now, I'm like writing the songs, producing the songs is like on hold. Black Licorice, I love you, but I'm like, I want to grow the podcast.
Yeah.
Like that's the first thing. Because real talk, if I get a couple of big guests and I can get them to come on every once or twice a month, I can start making good money from it and
Mm-hmm.
with sponsors, and then I can put that money back into it
Yeah.
um, to grow the platform bigger and bigger. And the real goal is like, let's say 5 years from now, it's a giant podcast. And so I'm having like David Gilmour on Monday, and then I have AlexMillerJamz on Tuesday,
Yeah,
and then I have
right.
Dave Grohl on Wednesday, and then I've got the Jaspers, who are from New Jersey with 700 followers, who I just interviewed, but they're awesome. And so you're
Mhm.
sandwiching in all of these giant legacy
Yeah,
with the new era.
dude,
And so
and
that's my end goal. And so the intermediate goal I'll give you is get I want 40,000 views a month. That's the goal I need. If I get 40,000 views a month, and so I've worked backwards, I need to have about 80,000 followers aggregate from all the guests. Gets
okay.
me. Because on
Yeah.
Instagram we're able to co-post together. And
Uh-huh.
so then it gets a direct it's almost like half of however many total guests
Yeah.
kind of determines the thing. And so I just interviewed this guy, John Kelly, who's in a really good band here in San Diego, and I'm going to go see some of his bands.
Nice.
But let's say they come on, and like this is to say where it's not crazy, is his band Silver Bullet, if they want to come on, they've got 20,000 followers. So if four bands like that, I'm at the 80,000. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like my number one. I'm in grad school right now. My number one kind of like focus extracurricularly is growing the podcast. And so there's kind of my way I think about it and how I contextualize it. So for you, is there kind of a main goal? You're teaching at School of Rock, which is
Yeah.
fun. Like what are you kind of, I don't know, excited about?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think, well, yeah. So the School of Rock thing it's so fun, and I really enjoy it, and I've it not only feels good to teach, but it's made me a better musician and a better guitar player because I'm forced to understand everything to have to be able to explain it. So that I'm super grateful for that. Obviously, that's not forever, but I'd say the biggest goal musically and sort of as an artist is sort of similar to yours in that the immediate goal isn't as much releasing music. I think I have about 10 songs released, so I have a decent number. I have a decent catalog that's out, um, and I've seen like um, sort of the progression and the growth of the quality of my music. Like I think the last song Cowboy Kid that I released is the best by far.
It's very
So
catchy, by the way. I just interrupted myself. I was about to, I was like, no, 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 no. I
no
didn't
way.
want to interrupt you, but I was like, fuck, I want to sing it right. Sorry, I swore. But I wanted to
Great.
sing it. I was like, that was good. By the way, very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
It's been
That
in my
was
head, literally. Like, this is
exactly.
not like, I was like, have I heard that one? And then I just literally, it popped in. I was like, oh, I like that one.
No way. That's crazy. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, like yeah, I definitely enjoy writing the catchy stuff cuz like, well, I mean, honestly, when I came up with that chorus melody, it was stuck in my head. So
Mm,
I couldn't get it out, and like the lyrics came so fast, and I was like, I have to turn this into something.
so
That
good.
was the I think the fourth fully recorded version of that song.
Oh,
I went
wow.
through a lot of trial and error for that, but I was happy with the final outcome. Anyways, back to sort of the goals. Is I'm Yeah, like I said, I'm happy with the music that I have. I think it's enough to be able to sort of at least build a following.
Hmm.
So my uh sort of the more intermediate goal is to similar to you, is it's to build my social medias. So I've been posting more on TikTok, not as much as I should, to be quite honest. um but the social media stuff is so important, to being an artist. It's obviously not the only way to make it, but it is um it's I don't know. I just think it's such a good tool, and I think like bands from the 70s and 80s that they needed to go play live to get discovered. I can get discovered on my phone in my room.
Yep.
Like I think you need to realize how big of an opportunity it is, and you just have to learn how to harness it. So right
Yep.
now I'm in the learning how to harness it step, and I'm trying to post as of now, just quantity over quality, and just to kind of figure out what works. But then the goal, once I kind of do figure out what works, I want to start posting more like higher quality covers, with like a twist. I've done some of them that's like, if this song was written by this artist,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, so like I'm working on one of those now too. Um, and that's some of like the higher quality stuff that I feel like, um, that could definitely boost the social media presence. However, the higher quality stuff, I mean, it's higher quality because it takes a while to do. Like I'm sure you're going through this with the podcast, that it's not, taking 20 minutes editing a quick video and then posting it and then getting 3 likes. It's taking hours to perfect this, and make the audio good, make the video good and everything, just for it to get 100 likes. So that's why it's tough. But I think I'm trying to find ways to enjoy it and not get discouraged by the lack of the growth, because I just know that the growth happens, if you're patient. So trying to be patient. um but yeah, so that's sort of the short term goal, is to just build up the following, and then honestly kind of go from there, build up a network. Too, I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of really cool artists, not only through UCSD, like meeting you, but just a lot of really cool people on TikTok and Instagram, just, random internet friends. So growing that network is another sort of fun bonus to the social media stuff, because it's really, really cool connecting with, similarly minded artists from all around the world. So, so yeah, definitely it's the social media stuff um, that I want to kind of boost, while obviously still songwriting, still playing guitar, still making my own stuff. Um, but that's just been kind of taking a backseat to the social media stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm having the same thing, and that's the thing too. Is where did Connor get this idea? Where did Connor get this whole podcast? And he's like, "That's the thing I want to do." Like, I see like a video game. There's a skill tree. You can upgrade all the different skill sets, right? And I know how to play guitar really well.
yeah,
I'm barely learning how to songwrite. Like I'm good enough to get things that people go, don't tell to me, ding 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 ding
hmm,
ding. That's what, like, I'll have people I haven't talked to in years be like, oh, it's on my playlist. I listen to it all the time. There's a reason it's got like for me, I'm like 9,000 streams on Spotify, but
solid.
like those are actual people. It's not just like it got on a playlist. It's like, oh no, I wrote a good song. It's like it takes a whole album, put out a whole album for
Yeah,
there to be one song that
just for
people
one to
really
hit.
connect with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but um all this is to say, I kind of was like, why the podcast thing? Because maybe you're wondering, is because I realized what had happened in comedy was similar to music, where the industry no longer was putting people, because they're like, oh, we can put comedians into big movies. But then once everyone was worried about everything being offensive, like, starting near 2010s, the comedians realized like, oh, we're not gonna, like, that's not gonna be the way that we blow up or break through.
Hmm.
And then Joe Rogan's podcast starts being big, and all of these just open micers are like starting out comedians, up and coming, would just go on, and then people would see them, and a huge audience would get exposed to them. And then now it's at the point where comedy's in this giant boom, and people think, oh, it's a boom, but it'll come down at some point. Well, what happened is everyone's making a full-time living with a podcast, and then they get 40 hours a week now that they've bought back to go do more comedy. So they get way better, and then the shows get bigger and bigger, and then everyone goes on everyone else's podcast. So
Hmm.
I think rock is like 10 years behind comedy. But I think if we get a couple of these to blow up, like, I wouldn't be surprised if in 2-3 years there's a really big podcast. And at that point, it's like, get Alex to do a podcast, get them to do a podcast, and
Exactly.
like go on their podcast like 4 times a month to help them get the views they need, and help them get guests who will come on who are big enough to get you the initial thing. So then we can get this whole, we've got all these different little like MTVs that can put on these new artists and the old artists, because the
Yeah.
labels used to connect the old with the new and have them open for them, be tour support for the big guy in the label, the small people, and work
Hmm.
together, use the same producer. And like right now, I don't, I it's probably not wise for me to like go all in on getting really good at music production right now. Like there's people who are much better than me at it, and they can just teach me in like one day versus me spending a month
Yeah.
and getting one quarter as far as if I would have just hung out with them for an afternoon.
That's the truth. That's the
So
truth.
that's the skill tree. I'm like, once I upgraded the podcast one, I've bought back the time and I have the network now. And because I have a platform, some of these producer people are less likely to blow me off.
Yeah.
They want to work with me.
Honestly though, yeah. And like
Yeah.
you're through the podcast, you're gonna grow this personal network of a bunch of artists, and
Yes.
that those artists are only gonna keep getting bigger,
Yeah.
and everyone's still gonna like you because you have them on your podcast. So
Yeah. Well,
so smart.
and you only have on people you actually want to talk to. Like, there's the trick.
That's true. It's true. Very true.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny. It's like there's people I could hit up who I'm certain like it wouldn't be bad for views, but I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to talk to them.
That's fair. That's fair. It's your podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but I think that's the like how do you make a good episode? It's like talk to someone who you really are excited to talk to.
Yeah.
Like even like I felt like I was worked up about stuff this morning, but I was like, I got to talk to Alex.
It's fun.
I got to talk to Alex. I haven't talked to Alex because it's gonna be fun to catch up with Alex.
Exactly.
And so it's like,
if anything, it's fun.
Same with the music. Same with booking gigs. You can get worked up about that, but you're like, I'm really excited about the music I've got written, and then we're playing, and like,
it's cool.
Okay, so let's see. I was talking podcasting. Oh, so you're doing social media. So
yeah,
for me, it was I did the podcast. I've been doing this for like a while now, but like seriously, it's been the last couple months. I've been like really going ham at it, and so that's where I'm kind of like. But I've learned a lot. I learned just recently, like 2 days ago, like, oh, I thought I only needed 20,000 average, whatever, like aggregate followers from guests to get what I needed. And so that's what I booked. Right. And but I really went out of my way to like get tons of people, even like people I didn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked a lot of energy and I realized, wait a minute, I'm undershot by a comical amount. That's 1/4 the number it actually, I kind of set this goal for like within 2 months, I want to have like a good enough track record so that when I go to advertisers, I've got like, this is 2 months worth of data.
Yeah.
We get, this many views and this is what you charge. And then 10 minutes of ads per 45-minute episode. I'm like, okay, there we go. And $500 an episode times 20 episodes a month. That's $10,000. Boom. And then you put that into ads and you get 6,000 followers within 2 weeks from $10,000 worth of ads on Instagram. And so it's like, oh, before you know it, in 3 months, I've got 20,000 followers. And now I just need to do 4 a month to guarantee, I mean, the same money. And then from there, it's like, well, now you got 20,000 followers. And so now you've got a lot easier time reaching out to people. You have more credibility when you invite people on and they feel less like maybe he's using me, And Alex, I am using you just for your own knowledge. I'm using you because you're talented. And I know you're going to be famous one day. So I can point back at this.
I'll be using you then too.
We'll use each other and it'll be great.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. So when are you starting your podcast?
That is a phenomenal question. I think this might be the first episode, and I'm going to actually interview.
I'll send it to you. You post it as the first episode. I'm not kidding. Go for it.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, on Instagram, I'll post it on mine, and then you'll like co-post it, right? And then I can say like the Rock Show, and then / the AlexMillerJamz Jam Out or whatever.
The Jam Out. That's good.
Jammers with a Z.
Obviously, Jam
Central Station.
Jam Cent. But the C in Central is actually a Z. Jam Central Station.
Oh, I like that way more. And dude, you could, because you're like, bro, it's Gen Z's place. Jam Central.
That's terrible. It's terrible.
You could Jam Central is not bad. Jam Central, like I know but like it's so fun to say.
It is so fun to say. That is
Jam Central. Oh my God, I love it because it goes with AlexMillerJamz. Can you please always be AlexMillerJamz? It's
I
so
think I
good.
have to. I think I have
It's so
to.
good. No, but some people, I know people like my friend, I love her, Alex. She was on Alex Saye. Very hard to write, very hard to pronounce. I said, make your name Elsa Dagger. Elsa Dagger. You're a punk rock chick, and like punk is your whole brand. Go Elsa Dagger. It works perfect.
That's a fire name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So
Zam Central.
you think that AlexMillerJamz should stay? Because
We could workshop it though.
I
We
wasn't
could
sure
see.
because it's really it sounds to me like a username rather than an artist name,
You know what? It does.
right?
But I
So
think it's so funny that if you're able to make it work in spite of that, it's funny, but and endearing and
yeah,
impressive. But I guess yeah, you're right. You could. I think a brainstorm session. You'd want to like get some coffee, get some notepads, go to a coffee shop, sit down for a couple hours. If you want to, Alex, next weekend, this weekend, actually, I can make some time this weekend. You can come down to San Diego. We could do that.
I
We
would
could
love
come with some
to
names.
because it's on my list of to do is to
Yeah.
workshop it.
Well,
So
let's. So when are you starting the podcast? First off, we're getting close to when I have to chop it because Instagram's going to cut it off at an hour.
oh okay.
When are you starting the podcast?
I don't know when
Okay,
soon. I'm gonna say soon. That's my final
soon.
answer.
Okay, sweet. Sweet. There you go.
Sweet.
Sweet. Okay, there's all good. There's no wrong answers. There's right answers. See, if I had a band who really liked gigging all the time, that'd be the way I'd be doing it instead of the podcast, and I'd just be posting clips of that. Um,
You need a band.
So the band Silver Bullet, who I just interviewed the
Yeah.
guitarist of, hopefully I'll interview Silver Bullet in a day or two. That's
That'd
what
be
they're
great.
doing, is they're gigging and jamming, but also their TikToks. They're doing Instagram Reels. Those are blowing up. Actually, go look at Silver Bullet's Instagram. I'll send it to you after this.
Okay.
You can just copy what they're doing. Just
Yeah.
copy it. Just because
Yeah.
it'll be different for you. You know what I mean? Like your
Yeah.
jokes and your references. Them, it's about being like, yeah, we're like stereotypical kind of like rock and roll, like biker bar, drinking whiskey. That's like this, like the thing they play with jokes on.
Yeah.
But like for you, it'll be different, right? It'll be more like Dayglow Sunroom. There you go.
Look at that. Full circle.
Full circle. Okay. Well,
yeah, I'll check that out.
What do you want the people to know, Alex? Where do you want them to find you?
I would love for them to find me on Instagram and TikTok and Spotify and Apple Music, all under the same name, AlexMillerJamz. Alex Miller, my name, and then JAMZ because it's cool with a Z. For now, who knows? It could be changing, but as of right now,
Jam Central.
Jam Central. Jam Central.
Jam Central.
That's the new name.
Zam Central.
Zam.
Oh my God, Zamboni. Dude, if you go Zamboni, no one's ever going to have a problem spelling that or saying that or remembering. Who did we see last night? Dude, we saw Zamboni.
Dude, we saw Zamboni.
Oh my God. Yeah, even people are like black licorice. I like black licorice and I think it works. I don't think I really need to change it. And I like that I'm in a legacy of a lot of black artists, right? Black Sabbath, Black Flag, the Black Keys, the Black Crows.
Yeah. And black licorice is, I don't know. It's a cool name. It's a cool name.
Thank you.
I like it.
It's a phrase already. People already know how to say black licorice.
Yeah, exactly.
And they already have associations that go, I don't like it. It's tart. But it's, like they've got all these.
That's not a bad thing for you.
Look at this. White, black, green. Green, accents of brown. You see this tan?
Wow.
The brown?
Wow.
Branding.
Fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gay, but I'd be complimented if you confused me.
Exactly.
Zamboni.
Zamboni.
Okay, Zamboni. Jamboni.
Jam.
You just gotta say them sometimes. I don't think we were gonna need to go with Jamboni, but
Jamboni.
Oh my God, you spell it Boney, Jamboni.
Mm-hmm.
You could do Zamboni, where it's all like bones, like a skull. Okay, wait, we gotta go. It's ending. Okay. Bye, everyone. Really like this cool outro. You like the cool outro? I made the theme song. Bye.